folks, it's me, Hannah. Hey. Okay, so how do I look? Okay, so here's the paradoxical thingy of coming out. So during the course of transitioning, at least in the first year or so, I found that it's important to not forget the main reason why we decided to transition in the first place. So generally it's to break out of confines. Every transgender has her or his reasons. Reasons might include anything from and or a combination of debilitation due to physiological factors, societal factors, pre-existing like results of a prior trauma, like a childhood trauma and or a sexual trauma. Yep. Okay, so breaking out of confines, debilitating confines. Well, we could take it a notch further and call it limiting confines. How about that? Yep. I'm basing this video on my own personal experiences. If you're transgender watching this video, yours might have been different, or yours might be different. If that's the case, you're welcome to tell us your reasons in the comments below. Yeah, I'd be curious to know, and I'm sure the rest of the viewers of this channel might also be curious to know. Yep. Okay, so I'm a human being, which unfortunately means that I'm a social being, which unfortunately means that I might care about what people might think of me. Here's what I'm talking about. Yes, we may have our perceptions of society, but it's important to do a fact check on ourselves to make sure that those perceptions are actually true. Sometimes we are so afraid of what people might think of us that we just clam up and we imagine things. We imagine things about what's happening outside. It's like this. It's like if you've ever been at a restaurant or on an airplane or at a train station or something, and you were feeling self-conscious and you were reading a book, and you were there may be a couple of people just sitting there a few feet away, but to you, you were thinking suddenly while reading the book, you were thinking like, oh, they're looking at me. And instead of like turning around to look, to check if they were really looking at you, you just continue reading the book thinking that they were looking at you. So that's the kind of like brain fudge that I'm talking about here. So when I was a guy, I had my own perceptions of society, ungrounded perceptions. I never really bothered to fact check on my perceptions, or at least a reality check on my perceptions towards society. So, in order to cater to this ridiculously absurd and ungrounded perception that I had somehow developed towards society, without even bothering to like turn around and look at society to see for what it actually was, I decided to like cater to this perception. So in order to do that, I built myself an ideal image, a ridiculously high expectation level of an ideal image, guy image of me, and I tried to live up to that guy image. So 3 things happened. First was I became really, really tired in my trying to live up to this silly image. Second thing was I inadvertently and unintentionally ignored my real self. The third thing that happened, out of the second thing that happened, was I became increasingly dependent on my closet dressing sessions to realign and or recharge myself physiologically, mind and body. So basically, I had effectively set myself into my own confines as a result of trying to cater to these ungrounded perceptions. So one of the goals behind my decision to transition was to make sure that I was free from any sort of confines. And that takes us to this paradox thingy. So needless to say, by the time I transitioned, I had already become aware of my mistakes that I was making, with the guy image and stuff, and repressing my real self and stuff. Yep. So, ironically, soon after I came out and started to live full-time. In the beginning it was full-time, part-time. I found myself in a new set of confines. That's the paradoxical thing that I was talking about earlier. I wanted to be able to live freely without confines, and there I was. I couldn't get myself to go outside the door um, because I was feeling so insecure of my appearance. I had like I had this notion of like what people might think of me. I thought that I would look um, real weird to other people, in society. Um, I I was afraid to do my normal weekend activities that I used to do before my um, coming out and living like full time, part time. I Yeah, that's one limitation. I used to go to like during the weekends. I used to go to like um, a nearby home improvement store, um, maybe like an auto shop. Um, not necessarily to repair cars, but just to go around to take a look and stuff. Um, Maybe go visit electronics store or something just to get myself like updated on what's going on with electronics and stuff. Well, my background's electronics engineering, so yeah, um, I was afraid to do any of those things. So I couldn't even get myself to go to the car wash because I was like, well, okay, I could dress myself in my um, women's jeans. I could dress myself in like my one of my um, two pairs of blouses that I had, um, and yeah, but my face, you know, was clearly looking like a guy back then, and I didn't really know what to do with my hair. I had a receding forehead. I tried to grow my hair out, but it just wouldn't feel like the way I wanted to. So I was like um, literally in confines. Um, yeah, that's one way. Another way was um, I like when I was a guy, I was a cheerful guy. I was cheerful. I was outgoing. I was also one of those, heroes that suddenly appear. When um, someone needed help when they're lifting the luggage onto the overhead bins on airplanes. Yeah, so I was that kind of a guy. I was outgoing. I was very like, um, um, yeah, outgoing. So like during that time, during those initial days of, or during those initial months of my coming out, I was afraid to talk because, well, dressed in like women's attire and, well, my hair, my appearance, um, I tried really hard to put on makeup and stuff, um, but I still like, I was clearly not nowhere near like possible. Um, and when I talked, I didn't know how to um, like express my vocals in the in as a woman. So there's expression, and there's also the pitch. Um, it's like it's different, right? It's different. It's a different style, different range, and so if I try to talk really high, I couldn't hear myself. Like I couldn't understand myself. So that was kind of like I was in um, I was against, I was between a rock and a hard place, that kind of thing. So yeah, it was like those few months felt extremely limiting. Um, it was literally like I was literally in confines. Yep. Okay, so the scope of this video is about the paradoxical thingies, which I have already mentioned. So, um, yeah, so that's done. But I'm guessing you might be wondering about how I was able to get out of the second set of confines. So, yeah, here is the info. Okay, so the second confines were clearly quite strong and limiting, but obviously I was able to break free from those, and I seem to be doing just fine. So here's what I did. First, I found a nice safe place, which was my bedroom, and I set aside a few hours of alone time in the bedroom. And I switched off my cell phone, secured all the windows at my apartment, secured the front door. Then I went into my bedroom and embarked on an inward journey back to the point in time shortly before I had made my decision to transition. Yep. So during that inward journey, I found the things that I was looking for, which was the goal, what I was trying to establish out of transitioning. Two was like the kind of timeline, expected timeline of things. Three was why I actually decided to transition. So once I got those three things, I got back to reality, and yeah, it like Ace Ventura might have said, alrighty then. So that's that. I was then able to like see my goal in sight once again, And at that point, I was able to like draw up a clear path towards that goal, right through the confines, and then I was able to superimpose or like establish the timeline on that path, the timeline that I had originally like anticipated. Um, Once that was set, the course was plotted, and I all I needed to do was the course was already set. All I needed to do was work on the equipment. So the equipment was going through feeling having feelings of insecurities and stuff like that, right? Right. So what I did about that was I just basically just told myself to drop everything, like drop all the worries, drop all the cares, all the societal concerns, all the perceptions, misconceptions, or whatever. It's just drop it. Just drop all the assumptions, and just drop all the emotions. So that's what I did. And once everything was left, I had dropped all of those things. Then I pretty much had a clear slate to like reorganize myself. So what I did was, okay, this is what's happening. I am transitioning. I am a transgender. I am a male to female transgender. I'm transitioning from being a male to being a female. I am not worried about the reasons for my transitioning because I already made my decision, and it wasn't like a quick and light decision that I had made. I had already done my thinking, and I had already arrived at a point where I had decided that I needed to transition. So I am a male to female transgender. Okay. Now, I am not the first male to female transgender. There has been many male to female transgenders before me, and there will likely be many more male to female transgenders after me. So, which means I'm not strange, I'm not unusual, I'm not an alien to society. I'm a male to female transgender, and that's exactly what I am. So, as a male to female transgender, regardless of the age of transitioning, the appearance more or less changes from being a male to being a female. So, at this point in time, I am looking like a male, which is not unusual, which is normal for a male to female transgender. And do I have a timeline? Yes, I have a timeline. I have a timeline of about a couple of years on HRT. before I start seeing like noticeable changes, like face and body. That's strictly physically speaking. I am also expecting changes in my mind as I get deeper into HRT. So, if I walked to a public place and like I'm looking like a guy right now, well, what's there to worry about then? Because I'm a male to female transgender and I just started my transitioning. So I just said that those things to myself, and um, and I just embraced myself and accepted myself and the situation that I was in, the stage of transitioning that I was in and stuff, and it just like systematically somehow systematically just put things into like a clear perspective, and all my feelings of insecurities just like almost instantaneously subsided right there and then. So once that was done, I stood up, I looked at myself in the mirror, and I felt like I was ready to embark on this journey, and I was ready to be back in the world. So yeah, so that's basically what I did to break out of the confines, and yeah, needless to say, I had a nice sleep, afterwards, and the next day, I went to I just like actively tried to get myself back to routine, like the things that I used to enjoy doing, like when I was a guy before my transitioning. I used to enjoy going to the home improvement store. Okay, so I went to the home improvement store, and I like to go to the auto parts store. Well, I went to the auto parts store, and then I told myself, look, if you can do this while still looking like a guy at this stage of the transitioning, it's only going to get easier. And of course, it obviously has gotten easier. So yep, so that's how I got out of it, and yeah, that's the story. Yep. Laters. If this video has positively impacted your life, please click on the like button below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe by clicking on the big beautiful subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, then thanks for subscribing.